Let them miss you. Raise your value. Let me tell you something that might hit you hard. You're only as valuable as you believe you are. If you don't see your own worth, why should anyone else? It starts with you. You need to understand the power that lies within you, the skills, the talent, the mindset, the energy you bring to the world. If you walk through life undervaluing yourself, constantly chasing after people or opportunities, you're sending a message that your value is up for negotiation. But here's the truth. Your value is not something to be earned. It's something you already have. It's time to own it. Now, this doesn't mean you're playing games or trying to manipulate people. This means you understand the importance of creating space in relationships, in business, in your personal life. When you're always there, when you're always accessible, when you're always giving your time and energy away freely, people start to take you for granted. They stop appreciating you because they know you'll always show up. But let me tell you, when you step back, when you create a little distance, that's when people truly realize what you bring to the table. Let them miss you. Give them the chance to see your value in your absence. You are worth more when you're not always there, ready to jump at every request. Now, I know this might be uncomfortable. We've all been there. You're the one who always says yes, always makes time for others, always helps out when needed. But here's the thing, you overextend yourself. And in doing so, you're teaching people that your time and energy are infinite. And trust me, they will take advantage of it. But when you start setting boundaries, when you start saying no, and I need to take care of myself, you raise your own value. People begin to respect you more. They start seeing the true worth of your presence. But it starts with you respecting yourself first. If you don't value your own time, no one else will. This brings me to another point, quality over quantity. It's not about how much time you spend with people or how often you're available. It's about how you make them feel when you're there. People will forget how long you spent with them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So when you show up, make it count. Give them your best, your energy, your attention. But don't give it away freely to the point where it's taken for granted. Show up when it matters, when it counts, and make that time unforgettable. You need to set standards for how you expect to be treated. The way people value you is a direct reflection of how you value yourself. If you constantly allow people to treat you poorly, if you let them take advantage of your time and your energy, you're telling them it's okay. But if you start setting boundaries, if you start demanding respect, you'll notice a shift in how people respond to you. They'll begin to realize that you are someone who knows their worth, and if they don't, it's time to walk away. Sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do for yourself and for your value. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a job that doesn't appreciate you, or a situation that drains you, when you know your worth, you know when it's time to walk. People don't miss what they have until it's gone. And when you walk away, they'll realize what they lost. And the next time they see you, they'll understand your value. You're not desperate for anyone or anything. You are valuable. And if people can't see that, they don't deserve your time. So let them miss you. Create that space. Show up when it matters. Set your boundaries and respect yourself enough to walk away when necessary. When you do that, you'll raise your value in their eyes and, more importantly, in your own. Don't chase after people. Let them chase after you because you know your worth. And when you know your worth, everything else falls into place. The first step in raising your value is understanding your worth. You need to truly grasp who you are and what you bring to the table. It's not just about recognizing your achievements or talents, but understanding the unique qualities that make you you. You have a set of skills, experiences, and perspectives that no one else can replicate. But here's the thing. If you don't see that value, no one else will either. You can't expect people to appreciate you, to respect your time and effort, if you don't first recognize the worth within yourself. It's easy to get caught up in seeking validation from others. We all want to be seen, to be recognized, to feel like we matter, but that can't be the foundation of your value. Your worth should never be determined by someone else's opinion of you, their approval, or their perception of your abilities. It starts with you. You have to define your value not based on comparisons, not based on what others think of you, but based on your own intrinsic qualities. Know that the skills you've developed, the lessons you've learned, the ways in which you've grown, they all contribute to your worth. If you don't believe you're valuable, it will be hard for others to believe it too. The energy you put out, the confidence you exude, all comes from that internal belief in your worth. When you recognize your own value, people around you start to pick up on that. It becomes clear that you're someone who knows who they are, someone who knows what they can offer, and they'll begin to treat you accordingly. But that recognition has to come from you first. You can't wait for the world to validate you or for others to tell you your worth. You must start by validating yourself, by seeing the value in everything that makes you unique. Take time to reflect on your strengths, your character, and the impact you've made. Realize that no one else has the exact combination of experiences and abilities that you do. That's power. And once you truly internalize that, you stop seeking approval and start commanding respect. Recognizing your worth is the foundation of everything else. Without it, you'll be constantly running after external validation. But with it, you step into your power and start to raise your value in the eyes of everyone you come across. Your worth isn't something to be negotiated or proven. To others, it's something you know, believe in, and carry with you everywhere you go. To raise your value, you need to understand the importance of creating space for others to appreciate you. Often, we make the mistake of being overly available, always showing up, always saying yes, always stepping in to help. While it comes from a good place, constantly being present can actually work against you. When you're always there, always accessible, people begin to take you for granted. They start to expect you to show up, to give your time and energy without question. Over time, the value of your presence begins to diminish because it becomes routine. When something is always within reach, it loses its specialness. But when you step back and give people a chance to miss you, you give them the opportunity to truly appreciate what you offer. Think about it. How often do you stop and think about something or someone that's always around? It's easy to overlook what's constantly available, but when there's some distance, when you're not always present and giving of yourself, suddenly your absence becomes noticeable. It's in that space that people begin to realize what they're missing. You raise your value not by being everywhere and doing everything, but by showing up when it truly matters. You become something worth seeking, something people have to work to have in their lives. And that's a power move. You create space for appreciation when you give people time to recognize your worth. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate others. It's simply about respecting your own time and energy enough to not always be on call. When you stop overextending yourself, when you stop allowing others to take you for granted, you elevate your own value. People will start to see the difference between when you're present and when you're not. The energy you bring will be appreciated more, and they'll begin to understand that your presence is something worth valuing. This approach isn't just limited to relationships. It applies to your career, your social circles, and even your personal boundaries. You can't give yourself away so freely that people stop seeing your value. They need to understand that your time and attention are precious. The more you respect your own boundaries and create some space between you and others, the more others will realize what you bring to the table. This is how you ensure that when you do show up, people value you, appreciate you, and recognize the importance of your presence. When you overextend yourself, you risk diluting your own value. The constant yes can become a trap that leaves you exhausted and unappreciated. People begin to expect that you'll always be there to lend a hand, always be ready to help, and always make time for them. While being generous and helpful is admirable, overextending yourself too often sends the message that your time and energy aren't precious. The truth is, when you give too much too freely, it becomes less special. People stop seeing your value because they've become used to it being readily available. The more you give without reservation, the less people value what you bring. It's important to recognize that your time, energy, and attention are valuable resources. When you spread yourself too thin, you're not only draining yourself, but you're also not giving your best to the things and people that truly matter. There's a difference between being present and being overextended. When you're always at someone's beck and call, you're not making intentional, meaningful contributions. You're simply filling a role that's always expected of you. You stop being seen as someone who brings value and start being seen as someone who can always be relied on, whether or not you're in the best position to help. By creating healthy boundaries, by saying no when necessary, you teach others to respect your time. You raise your own value when you stop being so readily available to everyone. You create a space where people have to earn your attention, and that is a powerful position to be in. It's not about cutting people off. It's about realizing that you have limited resources, and those resources should be given wisely. You can't pour from an empty cup, and constantly overextending yourself will leave you drained and undervalued. When you start saying no, you begin to preserve your energy for the things that truly matter. Don't be afraid to create boundaries and to give yourself permission to prioritize your own needs. This isn't about being selfish. It's about ensuring that when you do show up, when you do offer your help, you're doing it from a place of abundance and strength, not from a place of depletion. By choosing where and when you invest your time and energy, you reinforce your value. People will begin to respect you more, appreciate your presence, and see the worth in what you bring. Sometimes it's the power of your absence that makes others realize just how important you really are. It's not about how much time you spend with people or how often you're available. It's about the quality of your presence. Too many of us get caught up in thinking that the more time we give, the more valuable we become in someone's life. But the truth is, people don't remember the quantity of time you spent with them. They remember how you made them feel when you were there. The way you make people feel, the energy you bring, the attention you give them, the way you listen and connect matters far more than how often you're around. You want to be the kind of person who leaves an impact, who stands out in someone's mind long after you've gone. The reality is, quality is far more important than quantity. You could spend hours with someone, but if you're not present, if your mind is elsewhere, if your energy is drained or distracted, that time doesn't hold the same value. People crave connection, authenticity, and attention. When you're truly present, when you're fully engaged with someone and making them feel heard, respected, and valued, that's when your presence truly shines. That's when you make a lasting impact, and that's what people will remember. The more you show up with intention, the more your value increases. When you show up in a room, make your presence count. When you give your time to someone, make it intentional, not just out of habit or obligation. Give them your best energy, your full attention, and your genuine care. When people experience that level of quality from you, they'll begin to see just how rare and valuable it is. When you're constantly around, constantly available, it's easy for people to take you for granted because they know you'll always be there. But when you make sure that your time is spent meaningfully, when you make it clear that your presence is something to be appreciated, people will start to see just how important you truly are. It's also about the value you bring to any given situation. Think about the moments when you truly contributed, when your insight, your energy, your passion made the difference. Those moments are what people remember. They're not thinking about how many times you were around. They're thinking about the impact you had during the times you did show up. If you give all of yourself during the moments that matter, you make those moments unforgettable. That's the kind of presence that increases your value. So focus on the quality of your interactions, not the frequency. Be the person who brings something meaningful to the table when you show up. People will begin to appreciate the value you offer, and they'll start to seek you out more because they'll understand that your presence isn't just another ordinary moment, it's something that leaves a lasting impression. If you want people to respect you, you must first respect yourself. This starts with recognizing your own worth and setting standards for how you allow others to treat you. You can't expect people to value your time, your energy, or your presence if you don't demonstrate that same level of respect for yourself. If you're constantly available, constantly saying yes, constantly allowing people to take advantage of your kindness and generosity, then you're teaching them that your time is invaluable. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how others will treat you. If you don't establish boundaries and show people that you respect yourself, they won't either. The key is to set clear boundaries and stick to them. This means knowing when to say no, when to walk away, and when to prioritize your own needs. It's not about being rude or selfish. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are limited and they deserve to be spent wisely. When you start setting boundaries, people begin to understand that you value yourself and your time. They start to see you as someone who commands respect, someone who doesn't just give away their attention and resources without consideration. Respecting yourself is the first step in teaching others how to respect you. When you respect yourself, you also set the standard for what you will and won't tolerate. You stop accepting behavior that doesn't align with your values, and you start making choices that reflect the worth you see in yourself. If someone doesn't value you or treat you well, you walk away. You don't beg for respect, and you don't chase after validation. You know your worth, and if others can't see that, you don't waste your time trying to convince them. This self-respect creates a powerful energy that others can't help but notice. People will start to realize that you are someone who knows their value, and they'll begin to treat you accordingly. Remember, if you don't stand up for yourself and protect your boundaries, you risk allowing others to take more than they give. The more you give without regard for your own needs, the more you diminish your value in the eyes of others. But when you show up for yourself, when you put your own needs first, you teach others to do the same. They begin to see that you won't tolerate disrespect or mistreatment, and they'll start to recognize your value. When you respect yourself, you raise your value in the eyes of others because you show them what you're worth without ever having to say a word. There comes a point in life where you have to understand that walking away is sometimes the best way to raise your value. Too many people stay in situations, relationships, or jobs that don't serve them simply because they're afraid of losing what they have. But here's the truth. Staying in something that no longer respects your worth, drains your energy, or holds you back is doing nothing but diminishing your value. When you stay, you're telling people that you're willing to accept less than what you deserve. The key to knowing your worth is knowing when to walk away. And when you choose to walk, you send a powerful message about the level of respect you expect. Walking away isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength and self-respect. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a job that doesn't appreciate your efforts, or a situation that's holding you back, Sometimes the best decision is to cut ties and walk away. By doing so, you make space for better opportunities, healthier relationships, and a life that aligns more closely with your values. People can only recognize your value when you refuse to settle for less. If you constantly allow yourself to be undervalued, you teach others that it's acceptable. But when you choose to walk away from situations that aren't serving you, you show them that you know your worth and you won't tolerate anything less. It's not always easy to walk away. You might feel like you're giving up something, like you're losing an opportunity or a connection. But the reality is, by walking away, you're actually gaining something far more valuable. Your peace, your energy, your self-respect, and the chance to grow into a better version of yourself. People often don't realize the true worth of what they have until it's gone. And sometimes that's exactly the moment they'll recognize just how much you brought to the table. It's in those moments that your absence will speak louder than any presence ever could. By walking away, you're also teaching others to value you. They start to see that you won't stick around for disrespect, for toxic behavior, or for situations that diminish your worth. This is how you raise your value, not by chasing after others, not by pleading for respect, but by creating boundaries and walking away from anything that doesn't align with your worth. When you walk away from what's no longer serving you, you walk toward something better. You walk toward the life, relationships, and opportunities that will recognize your true value. And in doing so, you raise the standard for everyone else. In conclusion, raising your value isn't about constantly proving yourself or overextending to gain approval. It's about understanding your worth and making choices that reflect that. When you know your value, you don't have to chase after validation. You simply command respect. By creating space for others to appreciate you, respecting your own time and energy, and setting boundaries, you naturally raise the perception of your value. Quality of presence, not quantity, becomes the measure of your worth. When you start to respect yourself, others will follow suit and they'll see you for the valuable person you truly are. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. If something or someone is draining you, not appreciating you, or not aligned with your values, stepping away doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. It sends the message that you know what you bring to the table and won't settle for less. Remember, you don't have to be everywhere or available all the time to be valued. Let them miss you, and let your absence remind them of just how much you're worth. So take control of your life, set your boundaries, respect yourself, and recognize your worth. The more you do this, the more others will follow your lead, and the higher your value will rise. You have the power to define how you are treated, so raise your standards, raise your value, and never be afraid to walk away from what doesn't serve you. You are worthy, and once you believe that, the world around you will start to see it too.